Money is, to me, is like it's a growing entity. Like we grow every day, so does money grow, depending on how you use it. As men, that's what we want to do, to be effective leaders of our homes and be able to provide for our family. But if you got parents that like to get involved, then sometimes that could impact that as well.
And we've worked hard to have a better lifestyle and to give our children a better lifestyle. But in the midst of doing that and loving them and them making choices that we would have wished that they didn't make, it has impacted us to where now we're probably going to have to work a couple of years longer than we wanted to. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Theresa and this is my husband Johnny, and today we will be discussing how do we stop funding our adult children's lives. So sit back and enjoy the show, and if you like what you see, please press the subscribe button below. We will be presenting new video topics every week, hoping to help fund your future and make wise financial choices. So honey, we have two girls. They both made some challenging decisions when they were younger. We had a 19-year-old who got pregnant, and then our 20-year-old, she got pregnant, and we didn't plan on that happening with neither one of them. Both of our daughters, they married military guys, and currently we have one that's going to be turning 22 this week, as a matter of fact. Her husband is also 22. And then we have another daughter. She is currently 24, and her husband is 22. So they're both young. The younger one, she has one child and is back in school. And then our older one that's 24, she currently has two children. And we have been doing a lot of funding their lives because they got married young. Neither one of them had jobs. They didn't have an education. And me being the mom that I am, I didn't want to see our children suffer. So my husband went along with what I wanted to do. He didn't want to see our children suffer either. But because we continued to financially support them, it has affected our marriage, it has affected our finances, and it has made our children continue to want us to finance their dreams. So honey, can you go over and tell us how my wanting to take care of them and not let them experience the consequences of their decision, how has that affected us and our marriage and our financial future?
First of all, when you're raising your children, one of the things I think a lot of parents would like is to ensure that their children have some financial intelligence when it comes to how to handle money. Money is, to me, is like it's a growing entity. Like we grow every day, so does money grow, depending on how you use it. So with your children, you always want to teach them that, so when they get older, they can have some financial independence. Well, I think we try to teach them some financial intelligence, and so they can make wise choices as when they did become adults. But one of the things that I notice is with our children and some of the choices they made, those choices kind of impacted us because they did not count the cost before they made the choices. So instead of them learn some lessons like we had to learn when we was first married, we didn't have nobody to really save us when we first got married. We had to if we made a bad choice, we had to live with the consequences of those choices. And because we had to live with consequences of those choices, it taught us throughout the years how to become better money managers, per se, with our finances. So by us having to finance some of their choices, it impacted us in a negative way, because through that we would use our monies that we had saved, and we would give it to them, or not no small amounts of money, some nice amounts of money we would give them to help them get through some difficult situations. So that's one way. So we had to, by us doing it, we had to come back and say, you know what? I was like, honey, hold up. We got to stop doing this because it's going to impact our future. If we continuously finance their bad choices, it's going to impact our financial future. So we kind of talked about that. And, I think we have gotten better over the course of, a year, maybe some months. We've gotten better with with kind of how we finance their choices. And we actually talk to them about their choices to hopefully help them along too. So I think it's getting better, but there's definitely some guidelines that you have to put in place with your adult children. So, honey, do you have some of those guidelines you like to discuss, or how did you want to?
But what I would like to say, if you are watching this video and you do have adult children, and the love that you have for your children continues to prompt you to support them financially, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting your children also. At some point, I'm hoping you would want to retire. And a lot of times in our culture, the African American culture, from the background that we came from, we have a lot of family members that they live from paycheck to paycheck, and they struggle. And we wanted a different lifestyle for ourselves, and we worked hard to have a better lifestyle and to give our children a better lifestyle. But in the midst of doing that and loving them and them making choices that we would have wished that they didn't make.
Yes, that's true.
It has impacted us to where now we're probably going to have to work a couple of years longer than we wanted to. And what I've learned also about our children is, when you continue to give them money like it grow on a tree in the backyard, they're never going to stop asking. And from our own experience, what I've seen is you want them to care about you. You want your children to love you. But at the end of the day, this generation, the generation of our children, I can only speak for our children, they are pretty selfish. They don't care about your future. They don't care about you retiring. They don't care about your well-being, because the only thing they know is what they need. If mom and dad got it, they would give it to us. And one day you and I were talking, and we were having a pretty strong and a serious conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think my husband had probably grown tired, and what he said, it stuck with me. And I'm going to say it to you, my audience, and I'm hoping that it'll stick with you, is at our age, my husband and I, we are in our early 50s. And if we continue to go on the track that we're going, we're not going to have enough time to recover. So like if you're 33, 34, mm-hmm. you have years left that you can make up for the money that you spend. But once you start getting into your mid-50s, early 60s, unless you have a high-paying job and you're really disciplined, it's going to be a challenge for you to save enough money to support you and your lifestyle if you continue to give your money to your children. And so an example that I would like to share with you is that you will expect things from your children. Mm-hmm. Is that we have a daughter who's 24. She's in the military. They moved. And so my husband and I, we contributed a nice bed for them, for their guest room.
Yeah, we did.
And so I was thinking, okay, well, since we're going to contribute and give them this nice bed, full bed, when we come to visit, we will no longer have to stay in a hotel. We won't have to rent a car, because we were under the impression, which we were given that impression, is when we come to visit, that room, we could stay there. So it would be less of an expense for us to come visit. Well, lo and behold, they took in a roommate. So now that they've taken in that roommate, we are no longer able to stay in their home. We have to continue to get a hotel and rent a car. And so I was a little bit upset about it. But what I learned from this is when you fund your adult children, you have expectations on them.
Yes, that is very true. So, and I'll have to interject here, but anytime you give money to anyone, it's an expectation behind it, unless you give that money as you just giving it away and don't expect anything else in return once you give it away. But if you're dealing with your children, it's a different type of, like, at least for us, it was a different type of like expectation. Like, okay, we give you this, but then we expect you to X, Y, Z, right? It may be an expectation that was implied, or it may be an expectation that just was verbally relayed to them. But nevertheless, it was still an expectation. So when you give your children money, regardless of, in your mind, you may not think you have any expectations of them, but you still have some expectations of them when you're trying to help them out of a situation. You know, would you agree with that?
I agree with that, and I didn't realize that when we gave them money, we had expectations of them, and we are God believers. We love the Lord, and what we know is that's bondage, and who wants to put their children in bondage? But it was a subconscious bondage. Mm-hmm. And so we like to go and visit them, to visit with our grandchildren, because it's very important to us to have a relationship with our grandchildren. And so now, because our daughter made a decision, her and her husband, which is fine, is their home, they made a decision to take on a roommate. Well, my husband and I, we got to make a decision that, well, our financial future is important to us. So now, we were going to go help out with the grandchildren so they can have a break and have a date. But because you've made that decision to cut off the opportunity for us to come and visit, where the visit would be cheaper so that we could save for our financial future, well, now I got to be strong enough to say, no, we're not coming to help, because I am not going to spend $800 to $1,000 in a weekend so you and your husband can go on a date. So God is going to have to give me the strong mama love to where now I'm going to have to say no, because if I continue to say yes, we will be 60 years old still punching somebody's clock. Mm-hmm. And that is not a part of the plan that we have for our future.
No. And then another thing too, to tie this to a scripture about what we said about when you actually lend money to someone. I think it's Proverbs 22:7 talks about when, and I'm gonna give you this kind of version here. It breaks it down a little better. When someone takes a loan, the lender rules over them much as a master would over a slave. So in the bottom line is, the borrower is servant to the lender. That's the bottom line of that particular verse. So we never want to put your children in that type of bondage, where you might have a subconscious expectation of them that you may not even realize you even had until you start discussing it with each other. So I want to kind of share that, because I think that ties well with the conversation.
Yeah, and then what I would like to add too is, I didn't know it. I'm thinking my children were older before I learned the term helicopter parent. Yeah. And I can truly confess that I think I might still have a problem with being a helicopter parent. And if for those of you who don't know what a helicopter parent is, it's like you always have to be involved in your children's lives. When they're growing up, when they're in elementary school, you always got to jump in and save them. Like, you got to be in the midst of everything. And that's how I was with our girls. And I was raised by my grandparents. And I think because I wanted to be a mom that I did not have, I wanted to be that for my children. So because I wanted to be that for my children, I wasn't able to let them go when I should have let them go. And I wanted them to be able to experience and have some of the things that I didn't have growing up. So like swimming lessons, music lessons, dance lessons, art, anything that I could get them in. Mm-hmm. I wanted that for them because I didn't have it. And so if you are a parent listening to this, if you have young children or high school children, don't get caught up in trying to make sure your children have everything that you didn't have. Because when you do that, you are creating a selfish, self-centered person that's going to think the world owes them something. Mm-hmm. That's the experience that I have. Now, yes, I do love our daughters very, very much. But at some point, I'm going to have to stop being a helicopter mom. Like, I don't want them to experience no problems. I don't want them to go without anything. So when I get to that point, I'm like, give. And I gotta stop that.
Yeah, and then to add to that, I guess, equation, I think my wife mentioned it earlier, but our daughters are married, right? They have their own family.
Young married.
And they're young married, young married couples. And so, how I was raised is when you marry somebody, the man is responsible for his home and his household and his family. And so, those are the same expectations I have for my son-in-laws as well. With their own household, we had conversations about it before they got married. But those are the same expectations. And, to be, for me to actually giving them and, feeding money or feeding finances to them, that's kind of really hurting their husbands, because that's not giving them the opportunity to really be an effective leader, of their home. And that's the key thing that as men, that's what we want to do, to be effective leaders of our homes and be able to provide for our family. But if you got, parents that, like to get involved, then sometimes that could impact that as well. So I think the key thing is, you want to, either way, if they're not married, they still fall up under your umbrella, then that's something different, right? Because they might be in college and you got to support them in college, and, you make sure they have what they need so they can finish school, because they're still your responsibility. But when they actually step away from that and they get married, they fall outside of your kingdom, right? So there are kingdoms in marriage, right? So when you have children, then they fall up under the parents' kingdom, right? They fall up in the kingdom, that the house they live in, the rules and everything, the guidelines, they fall up with them kingdom rules. So, but when they step out and marry another person, then they fall up under another kingdom, which is that man, and you come together and make one, and you come up under another kingdom. So then you have another kingdom that you fall under, that you no longer really a part under your parents' kingdom. So that means that you might have a different operation under your kingdom, your new kingdom, than you had in your previous kingdom. You might have some different pleasures and different benefits that you could enjoy under your parents' kingdom,
yes,
than you would under your new kingdom with your husband,
which is broke kingdom.
It could be broke kingdom, right? You're right. It could be broke kingdom, but nevertheless, that's what you fall under. That's your kingdom. So you can't go in this kingdom and then want to come back to your parents' kingdom to enjoy the pleasures and the comforts of that kingdom when you're in a new kingdom. What you think?
I think that's pretty good. That's well said. And our daughters, they want both worlds. They want our world. They want us to fund their vacations. Oh, let's go here for a vacation.
Mm-hmm. They do.
No, we're not going for vacation for us to have to pay for 6 people to go on vacation. No, we're not doing that. So the main point of this video is to help you stop funding your adult children's lives. And so the first point is, one way that I recommend that you can stop funding your adult children's lives is you have to consider yourself.
Yes, I agree.
Because I'm not talking about your children, I'm talking about our children.
Yes.
Because I know when we talk about other people's children, we be ready to put our boxing gloves on.
Yeah, girl.
So with our children, we have to consider our future. Now, I feel confident that our girls, they love us. But they are thinking about the here and now.
Yes.
We got to think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if God allows us to see that time.
Absolutely.
So we got to care about our future. Mm-hmm. And when I'm talking about caring about our future, I mean we need to have our 401ks in place. Your home needs to be paid for. You need to owe no man nothing but love. You need to have at least a 12-month living emergency fund.
Yeah.
There's things that you have to have in place. You need to have your trust.
Or will.
Yeah, or will. But if you focus on your children's lives, when you get older, there's a possibility that you may have to depend on them to take care of you.
Yeah.
Well, if they spending all their money, if they don't have no money, they never did anything to get no money, then how are they going to take care of us? They're not going to be able to help us. And so now, after the dilemma with us helping our daughter with a bed so that we could have, some place to stay when we come to help her out with her children. Okay, she made that choice to do that. So now we got to make the choice to be concerned about our future, because she has showed us by doing this, her priority is herself and her wants. Mm-hmm. So what I learned through this situation is when your child show you who they are, you best to believe that's who they are. So you might be spending all your money and all your energy and your children thinking, oh, they're not going to let me go to a nursing home. Oh, they're not going to let me stay home alone when I shouldn't be staying home alone if God let me live to be 100. Don't trust that. You need to save your money and fix your life to where when you get older, if you got to depend on each other or depend on paying somebody to come in to help you, now is the time for you to start planning that, because your children, they don't care. Ours don't. I can't say yours, but ours ain't thinking about that now. So we got to think about it.
Yes.
Okay, and the second thing is, when you fund your children's lives, you got to consider how that's going to affect them. If the Lord takes you today, how will your children be able to stand on their own 2 feet if they are used to you coming to bail them out?
And I'm a big believer in this one, because one of the things I always would tell my wife is it's very important for them to understand responsibility, right? Because in today's world, you have to take ownership and be responsible. And if you don't understand responsibility, understand, I went through a tough time and God showed me how to get out of that. So here, if I'm going through another tough time, I know who to lean on to get through it, right? If they don't experience that, then if they ever run into a tough time and they always lean on the parents, guess what? They ain't gonna know to lean on God. So if they ain't gonna know to lean on God, then they may wind up falling and they don't know how to get back up because they never built that trust and that relationship in Christ, right? So I like that, yes.
And then like we said earlier, when we give our children money, we subconsciously have expectations from them.
Absolutely.
Based on what I know, that is bondage. Mm-hmm. God don't want us in bondage. He wants us free. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to put your child in bondage to you? Yeah. So that's another reason. That's another avenue for you to say no to your children. You don't want to put them in bondage. You want them to be able to stand alone in the event you're not able to take care of them or support them. And you also want to be able to provide for yourself, because you don't want to be a burden to your children when you get older. You don't want to be a burden. You want to be a blessing. You maybe want them to come in and show some support, but just not putting your children in bondage, them being able to stand on their feet in the event that you die, for them not to be obligated to you financially in their lives. That's motivation right there that should change your mindset to say, no, I cannot continue to support my children's financial lives. And then if you have adult children, I believe God gave me this idea. He was talking to me. It is no longer my job or my husband's job to support our children's dreams. We are no longer responsible for making all their dreams come true. Now, when they were younger, we really did. We did the best we could to make their dreams come true. But guess what? Like my husband said, they're no longer in our kingdom.
Yeah.
It's no longer our responsibility to make our children's dreams come true. If we continue to make them feel like we're going to make their dreams come true, we have daughters. Their husbands, at this point, they cannot meet the expectations of their wives that we could.
Nope.
So that's another way for you to stop funding your child's financial lives. You're no longer responsible for making their dreams come true.
That's right.
And the last thing that I would say, the bottom line, which I got to work on myself. I have not done it yet, but one of our goals for 2024 is we're turning things around and we're no longer going to cater to our children's needs. And I hope and pray that they don't go through nothing. If they go through something, that God will give me the strength that I need to allow Him to take care of it, to see them through. But the last way to stop funding your children's lives is, guess what? Just say no, go cold turkey. Now, I will forewarn them and say, okay, Mom and Dad, we're making a change in our lives. We got to get ourselves together. We got to get our savings built up. We're going to be retiring. So when our grandchildren are older, if we're not punching a clock, we'll be able to help out more because we will be financially free. We'll be able to do what we want to do when we want to do it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line to help stop funding your adult children's lives is think about what you're doing to them when you support them financially. And at the end of the day, just say no. And remember, you are no longer responsible for making their dreams come true.
And I'm going to add to that, because a lot of people think no is a bad word. It's really not. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. So no is not a bad word. It's just people don't like to hear no, and they paint it as a bad word. But no is not a bad word. That don't mean it'll never be yes. It just mean no right now. And it could be no for a long time. But no is not a bad word. So for your children, no might save their life. So just remember, no is not a bad word.
Right. And just because you say no, the parents, we have to accept that just because we tell our children no, it doesn't mean that they're going to dislike us. It doesn't mean that they're going to stop dealing with us. And some parents continue to say yes out of the fear of losing a relationship with their children. True. So if you are operating of the fear of losing your child or losing a relationship with your child, just remember that is not God. God is not the author of fear. So if you are funding your children's lives out of fear that you'll lose that closeness or that relationship, then something is wrong. That's really not a relationship. Mm-hmm. You need to operate in love with your children and don't allow your financial future to be hindered or destroyed because you're going to continue to give them the life that they had when they were at home.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Would you like to add anything else, honey?
No, I think really you already recapped everything, and I think hopefully the actual audience out there was really kind of in tune with what we were saying, and if you fall into this category, I hope our conversation has really helped you out in some whatever way it may have, or I may enlighten you in some ways that can help you get back on your own individual path that you need to get on to say no to financing your children.
Your adult children's lives.
Your adult children's lives.
Yes. So thank you so much for staying with us for this video. Again, this is Bartelle's Financial Coaching, and we are trying to reach people so that people can turn their financial choices around so that they can have a better life in the future. So if you like what you saw, please subscribe to our videos. We'll be doing this once a week, bringing you inspiring stories to help you with your financial future. Thanks again for joining us, and God bless, and we will see you the next time. Bye, y'all.